One of the most popular comments I got in my critique videos of Yugioh is how hard the new player experience can be. I also got a lot of comments from these kinds of people. Next vid is on degenerate destruction cards. The jump from learning the mechanics to performing a combo can feel like a valley, and Konami does not do enough to help potential new players. That's where BreadBoyWeeb steps in. To be clear, this video is not going to teach you the basics of summoning mechanics and what the turns are. There are plenty of guides for that. This video is more of a roadmap for learning how to get to a competent level comfortably and hopefully get a few players to stick around and see the amazing things this game has to offer. If you follow all of these steps, I can't guarantee you will like the game. Hell, people who play the game for a living don't like this game, but you will have given it as fair of a shot as you possibly could have. The number one recommendation I would give is to try out a retro format first when learning the game. All the modern summoning types can be a lot to manage. A pool of 12,000 cards and decks can make things feel impossibly out of control. Every deck also has a game plan that a new player could not see coming. Instead, focus on a format where you only have to learn a few decks and a slower, simpler game. I truly believe this is the best way for a new player to get out of the learning phase quickly enough and start having fun. If you are a Yugi boomer who has a seizure every time they see a pendulum, start with GOAT format. I got a lot of comments in my Master Duel video saying they were confused why I'm such a GOAT fan. I'm not, I play it like once a year. But it's the best format for someone who only played the original Duel Monsters and still has a sizable community around it. The format I would recommend to every other new player is Edison. Edison is the perfect balance between a more methodical, slower-paced game and having potential to end on strong combo boards. The format has only 2 extra deck types and a very fixed list for what cards and decks are good. You can also play rituals if you want to lose every game. The community for Edison is also the single largest for alternative formats in Yugioh, and teaches some good fundamentals about resource management and saving blowout cards for the correct time. And yes, it is unfortunate this is the smoothest way to get into the game, that the actual popular game is too much information to properly enjoy for a lot of new players. But once a player gets competent at playing Edison, the new mechanics and learning the staples won't be nearly as daunting. And hey, if you just want to stick to Edison, that's fine, it's an amazing way to play the game. Trust me, it's not the worst thing you can be doing in this game.
Lisa Starfrost.
And if you want more amazing videos, like and subscribe. We are growing very fast and I just want to be able to keep providing great discussion videos and hopefully buy a better mic. Back to the rant. However, if you want to learn the modern game, my next recommendation is to start with a simple but high-tier deck to play with. Now I know there are a ton of people who think everyone who plays good decks are meta sheep and ontologically evil, but a new player doesn't know the difference between full power tier and Ojamas, besides one of them is a sin to look at. Hear me out, maybe a new player might like that meta deck. Maybe them being able to win duels they couldn't with an epic wholesome 100 rogue deck will feel more rewarding to them. Try not to color your opinion with other people's predetermined beliefs about what is fun in Yu-Gi-Oh! And just let people play what they want. Hell, this goes a little further than just new players, but now we're getting off track. The 2 most simple decks I can think of that are still quite strong are Sword Soul and Kashtira. Sword Soul does the math for you on which synchros to make, has the easiest combo in the game to learn, and ends on a very solid mid-range board that is repeatable and effective. The Tenyis can also teach a new player how to board break and play through interaction with stuff like Vishuddha. Ecclesia as well gives the deck a solid amount of gas going second, so it gets a strong recommendation for new players who think going second is a death sentence. For Kashtira, your game plan is very low to the ground. You mostly use your very powerful effect monsters to gain advantage and some rank 7s to break the board. You have a ton of recursion, and Zeus is an insane card. Also, being able to banish a monster out of your opponent's extra deck is just crazy good right now, and it can help a new player learn what are the vital cards in an extra deck very quickly. You can also play floodgates like Shifter, which can swing a matchup in your favor entirely. Yes, floodgates are cringe, but limiting the amount of options an opponent can do can be very helpful for a new player trying to follow along with Yu-Gi-Oh's insane tempo. Now, my third piece of advice for getting into the game is to use an auto-sim. Again, I don't want to repeat my points from the last video, but Yu-Gi-Oh's unofficial simulators give you all the cards and let you play every type of format possible. Yu-Gi-Oh! Omega is good for beginners as its UI is flashy and it reminds you of every action at the right time, so you don't have to remember as much. On the opposite end, Dueling Book is much more stripped down, purposefully, as you have to manage all of your effects and actions, giving you a much more paper-accurate form of play. With the simulators, you don't have to invest a cent into a deck you might not find fun, and it gives you a chance to play the top meta threat and see if it interests you. This also lets you play against the most amount of variety possible, which means you will learn the meta much more quickly, and the anti-meta. Really, the only drawback to the simulators is the lack of community. It's really nice to go to a locals to talk and get involved with fellow players. Online spaces as a whole are always toxic cesspools, and Yu-Gi-Oh's is no different. Whether it's an opponent being an idiot on the ranked ladder or being called some horrible things, this online space is much less comforting. Omega had some controversy last year regarding this, and I hope they're making some steps to stop some of the toxicity. What you can do is just play the sim with your friends to avoid as much of it as you can, and Omega lets you mute chat, so I'd have that on as a default. As usual, I have saved my most controversial take for last. You should net deck. Net decking is pretty much looking up a deck list that has either succeeded at a casual level or topped a major event. If you are brand new to the game and don't understand hand trap ratios, side deck options, and where to tech in board breakers, this is your key to having something mostly complete. For some reason though, randoms will judge you for net decking. I'd just ignore it. I'm sure these people have never followed a recipe, or a GPS, or any other guidance in life. They're definitely a Sigma male or whatever. But for everyone else tethered to reality, it's a great place to start for not only knowing what are the best cards in an archetype you might be interested in, but what auxiliary cards are good for this format. It would also help to watch a few videos that go over which sideboard cards are good right now. From here, of course, feel free to experiment to your heart's content. Maybe you want to try some different ratios, or a different hand trap, or a million other choices in your deck. Because just like how a recipe can make a good meal but won't turn you into a Michelin star chef, a deck list and combo guide won't turn you into a good player. You have to now go out there and see what happens when your starter card gets negated, and what you can end on from there. The easiest way to learn this is watching a lot of high-level duels and seeing how they maneuver around their opponent, but nothing beats experience. When it comes to learning anything, not just Yu-Gi-Oh, you hit a point where consuming media about it won't help much, and you actually have to try it out for yourself to get a deeper understanding. You're going to have a couple of duels where you screw up the combo and shame scoop, or where you misplay and throw a perfectly winnable game. Remember, just like any other competitive game, you have to learn from your failures to improve at all. If you are someone who rages over your losses, competitive games as a whole might not be for you. I have a few more rapid-fire tips, but I think I will save that for a potential part 2. One of the biggest issues with this game is how easy it is to get flooded with too much information, so let's take everything from the top. Consider starting with a popular alternative format to make the learning process simpler and get you into competence easier. If you want to play modern, buy a deck that's cheap and still very powerful in the meta to help you as a newcomer brute force through some duels. If you want to try an expensive deck, use an auto simulator to play any deck for free. And finally, don't be afraid to use any additional resources into building your deck to be as strong as you can, but first-hand experience is the best teacher. Thank you all for watching. Please consider dropping a like and subscribing. This is BreadBoyWeeb, signing out.